Welcome to the garage. That is so weird to actually finally be able to say that and to welcome you here, and I apologize for the echo, but yes, we are in an actual garage here at my wife and I's new rental. We have a garage, and I'm not going to give you a full tour because it's really messy right now, and I'm just kind of throwing stuff in here, but I'm hoping to get it kind of organized and put away. I'm not moving a ton of stuff over here because the property that we are renting is for sale, and if they sell it, we kind of have to pick up and get out quickly. So I'm not going to have everything here, but we're going to have enough that we can do some things. And right now, I'm working on my 2015 Ford Focus that we've had for quite a while, but I've barely introduced on the channel. And we're just doing a quick little bit of maintenance on the 2.0 liter here behind me, because this weekend, not even this weekend, like Thursday, we're taking this car almost 500 miles down to Grace to visit family, going to a wedding on Friday, wedding reception for my sister-in-law. Congrats, by the way. We're super excited for you guys. And then we're coming back. So it's going to be probably around or over 1,000 miles. And the car is overdue for an oil change. We're going to get that done. But with 126,000 miles and purchasing it from somebody that I don't believe had ever really maintained the car, we're going to be tidying up a few of the other things. So we're going to replace the air filter. I've got a brand new one. I'm going to try to get the cabin filter replaced. I don't know how hard that is. And I'm going to replace all 4 spark plugs up top. And yes, unfortunately, they are iridiums. The car has plenty of power and it's getting really good gas mileage, but I bet they're on the original plugs, so it's time to throw some new ones in there. So we're going to do that as well. I have the oil draining. I'm going to go grab the other filter and I'm going to show you guys where all of that stuff is on the car, because it's underneath like a traditional car and like a car should be. None of this up here messy nonsense crap. So unfortunately, that does mean we have to actually lift the car, so I have it up on ramps. And I also bought a couple of creepers at an auction just barely, which I'm super excited about because I've never used a creeper before. I've used a creeper before, but I've never had a creeper to use before on my own personal cars. And I've never actually had a spot to use them. So I'm excited to be here in the garage, however short-lived it may be, to be able to maintain or also do major repairs on some cars. And yes, I still have my 2004 F-150. There should be a garage update coming out very soon. Underneath the car here, you guys know me, I only use Motorcraft filters. I only use the OEM filter on whatever car I'm servicing. So on this car, that truck, and a couple of the other service pickups, I only use Motorcraft. This one's an FL 910S. It's a really kind of a small filter. And then coming under the car here, you can see that that oil filter goes right here. So I'm going to go ahead and spin this off. It's pretty straightforward. It's just on a traditional filter housing right off the side of the engine oil pan slash block. You can pull the pan without having to pull that, which is nice and super common. So I have the oil draining. It should be all drained. Your drain plug is right here. It's a 15 millimeter. That comes off usually pretty easily. And the first oil change I ever did on this, the previous owner had used an STP filter, and it was on so blasted tight, I could not believe it. Hopefully this one's not on tight. Of course, I put this one on, and it's time for this one to come off. We got that new oil filter put up in there. I don't always write on them, but this time I did. I just put the date and the mileage of right now, not when I'm going to change it next. That way, I guess I know if for some reason I lose the window sticker or something. But looking underneath the car here, you can see that this is just really designed like an old school 4-cylinder. It's still a 2-belt system on the pulleys or the alternator, and my camera's not going to focus, so I'll show you up top. But on the alternator, power steering pump, and then the other accessories, they're 2 belts. I'm not a fan of that. I don't like it. But overall, it seems like this engine's a pretty easy one to work on. Now, I do think that there's supposed to be a plastic shield that goes here across the bottom, because it really looks like my engine's getting super oily and gunked up, but I don't think it's like oil and grease and stuff dripping down and leaking from up above the motor. I think it's like oil and grease and sludge and debris getting thrown up on it. So I may have to see about ordering a shield for down here, because If you want your vehicle to last forever and not have any, especially electronical issues, you want to make sure you keep all your shields and all your guards in place. It seems like such a dumb spot for a shield where you have to work around it to change your oil and do, add 5-10 minutes to that oil change. But trust me, in the end, it is well worth it. So I may be trying to find a new shield for down here in the future. Now, these 2.0 engines, they're very good engines if you're familiar with the Ford lineup. For some reason, I don't feel like the 2.0 gets talked about as much as some of the other ones, but it is a really, really good motor. Now, that guy right there, hooked up to it here, the transmission, that's something else and something we'll talk about here in a future video. And here's a view of that beastly 2.0 liter from up top. I laugh, but this actually is a really good engine. It puts out like 175 horsepower, I believe. I didn't check the figures on that, so don't quote me there, but it is a good motor. The only complaint I have really with it is that it takes 4.5 quarts of engine oil. Come on, Ford, you're an American manufacturer. More oil doesn't hurt anything. I don't know why we couldn't have just gone with a full jug of 5 quarts of oil. But, there's a lot of other things about this car that make it really kind of European style, Japanese-ish. It's very similar to like a Toyota Camry or a Corolla or Honda Accord. Really super similar. I wish that I still had my 95 Camry even to park side by side of this car and compare the two, because while this is a modern 4-cylinder and our 95 Camry was an old analog style, old school 4-cylinder, there are so many similarities. It almost kills me that we haven't really made a ton of advancements in 27 years. But having that said, yes, this car is like 6-7 years old now, and it is actually a really good motor. So it puts out a ton more horsepower than the olden day 4-cylinders did. It's like 175. I don't know what its torque figure is. It'll actually do 0 to 60, and it's really nice, really comfortable to drive on the highway and on the road, even though it is just a 4-cylinder. But being a 4-cylinder, it still gives you that fuel savings. So typically on road trips, we'll average about 40 miles to the gallon out of this thing, which is another reason that I really like the 2.0. Not only is it a 300,000 mile engine with, good care and maintenance, but it's a very, very fuel efficient engine while doing those miles. It really is a good motor. And so today I'm going to pull the spark plugs. I'm going to see how they are. If we've got oil on the plugs, I'm not going to change them. I'll just put the coil packs back on. We'll take it on the road trip, and when we get back, we'll replace this valve cover. I'm kind of concerned about that because I do see a little bit of oil here and there around the plugs, and I don't know how that is getting there because this is really dry and really clean, and it's sealed off, and I never spill oil on this engine because it is a super easy engine to change the oil on. So it kind of makes me wonder if the spark tube seals are leaking or if the valve cover gasket is leaking a little bit, which if it is, we're going to replace that valve cover gasket. And hopefully it's not one of those weird doodads that you have to replace the whole valve cover as well. But, we'll cross that bridge when we get there, because I'm sure we'll get there one day. Well, I've got some really bad news for me, really good news for you guys, because you're going to get some content out of it. These are drenched, not just like there's a little oil on the plugs. Like this coil pack is drenched in oil. Hopefully that will even make a good connection to go back on there. Unfortunately, I don't have time or the ability to get parts in time to fix this before our trip. You really shouldn't drive it like this, because if that for some reason started to leak down into the actual cylinder, like say it started to leak down past the spark plugs, not just into the spark tubes, that could cause a misfire, which, could damage the engine, but probably won't, but will definitely make the trip very, very miserable. And if you're not careful, you could damage your engine if you drove, quite a ways on that. So unfortunately for you guys, we will be doing valve cover gaskets on this 2.0. So you'll want to hit the big red button down below and stay subscribed to the channel. Today I'm not going to be replacing the spark plugs. I'm going to save my new plugs for the new valve cover gaskets, which I'm going to go in and order promptly from Rock Auto. All right, moving on to what I had hoped was greener pastures, but unfortunately it's not. This air filter is definitely due for a replacement. I'm going to grab the shop vac and we'll clean out the box just a little bit. It's not as bad as the Duramax's was that I pulled out a few weeks ago, but luckily for us, it is stamped with Foam-O-Co. So it is probably maybe the factory filter, but it is genuine. I don't know if it can be the factory filter or not. It's definitely in a really well sealed box environment. I don't know how you want to say it. And it looks pretty clean on the inside. So I don't know, 127,000 miles. It's probably been replaced at some point. And luckily they did use genuine parts. So we have our new one here. It looks like pretty much the same thing. I'll show you. Here's the vendor code, Foam-O-Co, made in Mexico with the part number, but it is much cleaner. So grab the shop vac, clean this up, put that back in, and at least we'll have the air filter done. All right, well, that actually took forever. I have a beef kind of with all of the plastic covers that they put on these new motors. Brand new from the factory, they might work really well, but 130-ish thousand miles later, they don't all quite line up like they're supposed to. So it took me a little while to get that air filter in and put tight. And then I checked the battery cover. It's an Everstart from Walmart, which I'm not a fan of. And I have no idea how old it is. I couldn't see a date on there. But maybe we'll have to replace that here in the future just so that we don't have to worry, because this car technically is our commuter, but we also use it on really long road trips like what we're taking this weekend, because gas is almost $5 a gallon here in the Midwest, which I'm sure to some of you sound cheap. Comment down below the price of gas and your location, but here in Wyoming it's like $4.79. And with all of that said, this is all the maintenance I'm going to do on the car tonight. Well, I might dive into that cabin air filter here in a minute, but guys, I'm planning on keeping our 2015 Ford Focus quite literally forever. It's the newest car in the fleet. Currently, it's the lowest mile car in the fleet. It won't be for long as we drive this thing an absolute ton. But we're planning on keeping this for the long haul. When we eventually do get something newer, or it gets too many miles and we get something with less miles and we phase it out, we're going to keep this car as our runaround and as our commuter close to home. So if you're not already, be sure that you are subscribed to the channel to see how these cars hold up over time and to see some of the modifications and things that we do to this car to keep it on the road and to make it even more drivable. Comment down below what you would like to see with this vehicle or with any of my other vehicles. And with all of that said, get out, enjoy your automotive ownership, go take a road trip and enjoy your vehicle, and I'll catch you in the next video.